Hey, what is going on, guys? It is SuperbTube here and welcome back to another video. In today's video, guys, we're going to be ranking the main 4 factions of Fallout 4 in terms of how good would they be at running the Commonwealth. Now, we're going to be looking at a variety of factors to determine how good would they be at running the Commonwealth. We're going to be looking at their military prowess, their technological advancement, their tactics, their morality, and for gameplay purposes also their unique items, but that is sort of a separate category. We're going to be looking mainly at the storyline purposes of how good would they be at running the Commonwealth once you've completed their ending. If you do enjoy this video, guys, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 8,000 subscribers, so please make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video. Anyway, let's get straight into it.
So first we're going to be discussing the Brotherhood of Steel, and you first meet the Brotherhood of Steel at the Cambridge police station, where you will find Paladin Dan's, Knight Reese and Scribe Halen set up in there. You will later find out that the full force of the Brotherhood of Steel doesn't arrive until you complete the Reunions quest, where you kill Kellogg. After you exit Fort Hagen and you look up into the sky, you will see the ginormous Pridwen headed by Elder Maxon and the rest of the Brotherhood of Steel as they enter the Commonwealth. They announce their arrival and declare who they are by saying, "We are the Brotherhood of Steel." And they tell the people of the Commonwealth to not interfere with their operations as vertibirds dispatched from the ship, showing the military prowess of the faction. So the main advantages for the Brotherhood of Steel to rule the Commonwealth are to free the Commonwealth and its people from the Institute and synths, to oppose the clear nefarious operations of the Institute, such as kidnapping and replacing people, such as your son, Sean, he was kidnapped as a baby, murdering innocents, and reclaiming escaped synths using their powerful and deadly Institute courses, who are an extreme threat to the people of the Commonwealth. No one in the Commonwealth can oppose them. The Brotherhood of Steel can. Now, all of these are strong evidence for them being an extreme negative on the Commonwealth and a threat to the people too, which is why the Brotherhood aims to liberate them from it. Now, their next advantage is that they are clearly the strongest faction militarily, as they have the greatest weapon technology in the form of Gatling lasers, laser rifles, laser pistols, all sorts of energy weapons. They also have the very strong power armor in the form of T60 Knight and Paladin and Sentinel armor, which many of their soldiers wear. Most Knights are provided with a set of power armor, as are you when you join the Brotherhood of Steel. When you get recruited by Paladin Dan's, he initiates you into the Brotherhood. You are given your own set of power armor, which just proves they have plenty to give out. And when you arrive on the Pridwen, it's very, very clear immediately that these people are not incompetent peasants that don't know how to use weaponry. They are very well trained. They train up their squires from a very young age, as young as 10 possibly. Both boys and girls, they train them up. You can see them on the Pridwen with all the soldiers, and they'll talk to you. They are being trained from a very young age to learn about the ways of the Brotherhood of Steel and learn how to become a soldier. So when they grow up, they become a scribe or a knight or a paladin, meaning they have access to a large amount of new recruits because they are training them from a young age to be very skilled. Additionally, a third benefit is that they have night patrols that will roam the Commonwealth, and they will kill any raiders or creatures such as ghouls, super mutants, deathclaws, behemoths. They can take on pretty much anything, and they do this to make the streets safer for travelers and improve the living standards of the Commonwealth. Due to their power armor, they are extremely strong and very durable. I've seen super mutant suiciders run up to them and hit them with a nuke, and all that's happened is their power armor legs have fallen off and they've just kept walking. When the Brotherhood is still arrive in the Commonwealth, you are very aware immediately that they are there on their own and they don't need you. You can join them to help them, but they do not need you. They are fully capable of doing what they need to do on their own. They could take out the Institute on your own, obviously. The story permits that, but they could. They could find the Institute and take them on. You just speed the process up. And speaking of speeding the process up, they also have access to Liberty Prime, who many of you may remember from Fallout 3, the ginormous, murderous robot that can kill anything in its path, and is debatably one of the strongest machines or characters in the entire game, as it preaches about destroying all communists and destroying things with its laser vision. And now that is it for the storyline related pros. We have also included at least one gameplay advantage for each faction. And in the case of the Brotherhood of Steel, it would be access to more power armor. As I said earlier, you are given access to a set of knight armor, and then you are upgraded to paladin armor after the blind betrayal quest is completed, and you replace Paladin Dan's. Sorry for the spoiler alert. And then eventually you'll also get access to exclusive Sentinel armor if you progress down their quest line and do their ending of the game. You will get a set of Sentinel armor which you cannot get anywhere else. And it also comes with a jetpack mod as well. Obviously, you can add the Sentinel paint job to other sets of armor because you get the paint job, but you can't get that unless you reach the rank of Sentinel, which has to be done by finishing the nuclear option with them. And now for the cons. One of the main cons of the Brotherhood of Steel is that they are semi-evil overlords. And how could they not be with this much power? The power clearly goes to the head. It goes straight to Elder Maxon's head, which is why he orders his highest officers to order you to do things for them, such as forcing farms to give over crops to feed their soldiers. And the farmers have no choice in this. You are told by Proctor Tegan, go to this place and get crops off them, and that's it. Like, that is one of the raiding quests, just stealing food from settlers. It doesn't matter if they say no. These settlers, these little peasants, shovel about their carrots for all day and they move crops. They're not going to oppose 3 giant soldiers with Gatling lasers and power armor. They're not saying no to them. It's just not going to happen. Intimidating innocent settlements to give you food, while it is a lesser evil in some sense, it's also very Raider-like. That is Raider behaviour, to use their power and weaponry to just intimidate anyone they want and take what they want, whether they say no or not. Now, the second disadvantage is these people are absolute tech hoarders. They love technology. They are obsessed with it. It's all they think about all times. I'm sure that Elder Maxon probably has a picture of power armor by his bed because he loves it that much. They are unwilling to share technology. They will steal technology. I'm sure that if you turned up to their Pridwin in a set of Exo-1 armor, they'd strip you for parts and just shove you off and then kick you off. This is directly contrasting with the Minutemen, who, as a faction, they aim to empower settlements, give them water, food, defences, while the Brotherhood of Steel will just keep it to themselves. And this is another thing, it's really stupid of them, because while they're so obsessed with tech, and they love it so much, yet they blow up the Institute without taking any of it. They just leave it there. The Institute also have a high level of technology, and they just leave it all there, because they don't want it. They want no part with it. Surely they would want that, but no, they're only interested in laser rifles and power armor, clearly. And also, the Institute have genetically modified food, which they don't take, so they could have fed the Commonwealth. Instead of having to steal from the settlers, they could feed the settlers with the genetically modified food. But do they take it? No, they just leave it there and blow it up, along with all the Institute scientists. The third disadvantage to the Brotherhood of Steel is that they are massive bigots, in the sense that they do want to eradicate the Institute, which is good for the people of the Commonwealth, as it will help them, and they can live freely. But on the other hand, they view ghouls, super mutants, and Sims as subhuman and unworthy of being saved. Now, this is a topic that's been largely debated in the Fallout community, such as the sentience of Sims and whether they deserve to live. However, for the Brotherhood, that's just a clear no. They don't care. There is no debate for them. They just want to kill them. And for ghouls are human beings that have been exposed to significant radiation. They are still as sentient as a regular person until they turn feral. But to the BOS, they just view all ghouls as feral. They just think they're all evil and just all going to kill them, so they kill them first. And super mutants, they think super mutants are all monsters, which many of them are. They are quite brutal, but you see intelligent super mutants in the form of Virgil in the game, and on the West Coast you see a lot of intelligent super mutants that can speak and communicate. Yeah, they don't care. They would still destroy them. And for gameplay purposes, if you're a fan of the Railroad, unfortunately, if you choose the Brotherhood of Steel ending, you will have to eradicate them, because the Brotherhood of Steel believe that the Railroad directly oppose their operations, and they do, because the Railroad wants to save Sims, whereas the Brotherhood of Steel want them all dead.
So the second faction that we are going to be talking about is the Institute, and the Institute is unlocked after you complete the molecular level, where you teleport into the Institute and you meet the leader of this infamous faction, Father. Now, the Institute, for the better part of 2 centuries, has been a major mystery for the people of the Commonwealth. It was established soon after the start of the nuclear apocalypse, with students and teachers from the CIT digging into the ground to create a new civilization, one based upon science, logic, and advancement. This faction is pre-existing with a long history, and you are the first outsider, bar Kellogg, to have access to the astonishing technology on display. But the main advantages of the Institute and the pros of this faction is that it is a scientific utopia. It is a self-sufficient, technologically advanced society with many people working on advancing technology and making things better. They have infinite food and water and energy, and they are able to cure communicable diseases and also cure aging, as evidenced by the 150-year-old Kellogg, who Father believed may live to even be 200. They also make synths, which are immortal, sentient, human look-alike, sort of identical beings who can be created instantly by dipping them into a vat of magical goo, and you make synths. These synths are indistinguishable from humans. The only way you can tell a synth from a human is upon death, when you look in their brain and you find a synth component. There is no test device whatsoever that can detect a synth, apart from the safe test that is used by the Covenant people, which has a success rate of about 70%. Not sure how they figure that one out, but yeah, there's no real way to tell a synth from a human. These synths can be used to further goals without harming humans, because why send humans into dangerous situations when you can just use synths? Synths are used in the Institute from the lowest level stuff like janitors, but also used for the highest level stuff like coursers, who are infinitely superior to humans in their reflexes, accuracy, strength and speed. The Institute also has teleportation, which is a major scientific advancement and achievement in that they can teleport their synths and scientists and literally anything anywhere and instantaneously materialize in any civilization in the Commonwealth. The Institute is not only capable of creating synthetic humans, but also creating synthetic animals such as gorillas in the bioscience area. Now, the Institute does offer amazing gameplay advantages in that if you are playing on survival mode, the ability to teleport to the Institute immediately does give a massive advantage and a massive boost to your travel time, because without it, you are wandering the Commonwealth unable to fast travel to any locations whatsoever. But at least with the Institute, you can fast travel to the middle of the map and get your bearings a little bit. The Institute also does offer the Institute Power Armor paint job if you complete their ending. Now, despite the Institute being a seemingly scientific utopia that Father paints it out to be, and the amazing technology on display, there are a serious amount of cons that the Institute does have. One of the main ones is that they are morons. They created sentient synths, but for what? These synths can bleed and die like regular humans, and they are weak when their potential to be so strong is so high. All the Institute would have to do is make their bodies out of a different material. They could make it out of titanium, they could make it out of any number of things, and you could create these sentient beings who are not as weak as regular humans and cannot die of blood loss and be shot and killed so easily. Now, the reason why the majority of synths are so weak is because they are designed to infiltrate and spy on the people of the Commonwealth, and also abduct people and replace them to perform experiments, such as the replacement of Roger Warwick at the Warwick homestead for pumpkin seeds. Now, the Institute has murdered an innocent man, Roger Warwick. They have kidnapped him, murdered him, and made a copy of him and sent him back to his fake family to perform experiments about pumpkin seeds. If this does not scream evil overlords, I don't know what does. This is such a pathetic, pointless task when they could simply ask Roger Warwick to plant the seeds himself and pay him some caps or give him something. There is no need to murder him and replace him. This is completely and utterly pointless and demonstrates the evilness of the Institute. They also cause mass fear and panic as they are a shadow government, and everyone in the Commonwealth is terrified because anyone at any moment could be a synth ready to kill you. When you enter Diamond City for the second time, Kyle pulls a gun on his own brother Riley and accuses him of being a synth, resulting in security killing Kyle. The menace of the Institute extends to even siblings not trusting one another, and the paranoia results in death and catastrophe. Despite all of the technology the Institute has at their disposal, what have they actually accomplished? They've made sentient robo-people? That's interesting. Why? It's completely pointless. All they do with these synths is replace people in the Commonwealth to spy on them. On the surface, they use synths to replace people, to spy on people and gather intel about what's going on the surface, or also kill innocent people, such as the Broken Mask incident, where a synth killed a bunch of people in Diamond City. This is all the synths are used for on the surface: to kill people, replace them, and ruin people's lives, and spy on them. There is no good that comes from the Institute meddling above ground with synths. Under the ground, in the Institute itself, Gen 3 synths are put to work. They are used in a variety of roles, but why make Gen 3 sentient, human-looking, indistinguishable creatures from humans? Why make them be janitors? Why make them perform such menial, pointless tasks when you could create Gen 1s or Gen 2s who are blind robots who will do everything that you say? The Institute repeatedly refused to acknowledge the sentience of Gen 3 synths, despite the fact that they escape all the time, and they escape so much that they've had to create the Synth Retention Bureau, which goes after escaped synths. Very clearly, there is a major issue with Gen 3 synths. They are sentient, or if you don't think they are, there is a major malfunction with them, so why continue to mass produce them and employ them in the Institute? In the Railroad ending, the synths within the Institute rebel and kill the Institute overlords. They murder their creators. This is a major design flaw that the Institute should have recognized by the fact that they had to create a whole area of the Institute dedicated to finding and bringing back and erasing the memories of escaped synths. There is no reason to continue to mass produce Gen 3 synths. The only real reason to use them is to infiltrate and garner knowledge about what is going on above the surface, but this itself is very evil. You are murdering innocent people and replacing them, and having these fake, phony synths pretend to be who they were and talk to their families and act as if nothing's wrong. They're also major morons in the fact that they have the ability to take over the Commonwealth if they wanted to, but they simply don't. Why make synths to go up and infiltrate and scare everyone when you could just take it over? What's the point in being a shadow government when you have the technology to just take everything over? And they don't. Coursers are incredibly powerful. In the quest where you must retrieve a Courser chip, you go through the building which is filled with gunners, gunners are mercenaries. These are trained people who are hired guns. These are not morons with random pistols. These are people who are trained with weapons, and a Courser killed many of them, and they are extremely difficult to take out. So if the Institute mass-produced Coursers and sent them into the Commonwealth using their teleportation teleportation to teleport them into any settlement whatsoever, they could easily take over and have everything that they want, but they don't. They make synths to spy and kill people secretly, but it's pointless. Why would you do that? The super mutant menace that plagues the Commonwealth and kills many innocent people on a daily basis was actually created by the Institute. They first decided to use the FEV to experiment on people and see what happens, and when super mutants were created, they decided to send them out into the Commonwealth and harass and murder innocent people and stagnate different settlements from ever gaining any technological prowess whatsoever. After the Institute learned the FEV is only useful in making super mutants and it's incapable of making super soldiers or anything else, Father and the previous directors of the Institute continue to insist on making them and send them out into the Commonwealth, and these groups of super mutants continue to kill and murder and take over areas of the Commonwealth and inhabit it and make everything just truly awful. Now, despite all the Institute's evil actions to the people outside of the Commonwealth, and they love themselves and they protect themselves, they give themselves all the infinite resources and don't share them with anyone else, the Institute itself is also run horribly. The Institute is a dictatorship. Father, when he is dying, declares you as the future leader of the Institute when he is gone, and all of his top scientists just sort of groan and then just accept it. Why should you, some random Joe with no knowledge of science, with no knowledge of anything, be declared the leader of the Institute? And the Institute is ran as a dictatorship. Everyone has to follow whatever the leader says, no matter what they say. In the quest where two Institute scientists lock themselves in the food room and refuse to acknowledge you as the director and protest until you resign, you can choose to execute them after that mission, and the Institute just goes, okay, I guess we'll go along with it. The Institute is ran horribly. It is a horrible, horrible place to live and work, and they also do horrible, horrible things to everyone outside of the Institute. Now, the Institute can be argued as successful in that they are amazingly scientific and they have amazing technological advancements, but they are very clearly the de facto bad guys in the game because 3 of the 4 endings are about killing them. However, if you do choose the one ending where the Institute is successful and side with them, their ending is pretty terrible. All they do is benefit themselves and refuse to share any technology with anyone in the entire wasteland. They harbour all of the worst aspects of every single faction. With the Brotherhood of Steel, they hoard technology. The Institute is very guilty of this. The Minutemen are very reliant on you, as is the Institute. As soon as you become the leader, you are asked to do literally everything, and they also hide away because they're scared of everyone, just like the Railroad. They harbour literally every single terrible aspect of every faction all into one, making them very clearly the worst choice. There is absolutely no support for the Institute whatsoever. No one in the Commonwealth likes them because they're a bunch of morons. Groups like the Railroad, Acadia, and the Brotherhood of Steel are all based around hating and plotting the Institute's demise. Gameplay-wise, most companions disapprove if you side with them. You must kill the Brotherhood of Steel and the Railroad, the 2 other main factions in the game. You must kill Paladin Dance, an amazing companion, and also Deacon, another amazing companion, and Valentine Piper and a whole host of others very much dislike what you do if you do side with the Institute. Now, after killing 2 amazing companions, Paladin Dance and Deacon, if you side with the Institute, you are rewarded with another companion. Maybe he's better than both of them combined. Oh no, it's X688 with the personality of a rock. So despite all of the advantages that the Institute has going for them in terms of their amazing technology and their intelligence and their advancements, they are very much hampered by the absolute insane amount of cons that plague them, both themselves and also what they do to other people of the Commonwealth. They are truly a very negative faction.
And now our third faction, the one you may have been waiting for, it's the Minutemen. For our third faction, one that many of you may have been waiting for, it's the Minutemen. Now, the Minutemen are a faction that want to help the people of the Commonwealth, and they want to take the fight to the Institute because they pose a threat to them, and they believe the only way to stop the kidnappings and the replacements of people, innocent people, is to destroy the Institute permanently. They are the only faction that tries to achieve peace with their final ending, and they can achieve it, meaning that the Brotherhood of Steel and the Railroad can coexist at the same time, albeit they don't get along very well, but they aren't at each other's throats trying to kill each other all the time, as they are in the other endings. And after you complete their ending, they begin to expand their operations. Finally, they actually get some growth. You will see them set up banners and have Minutemen in Diamond City, where they report that people are reacting positively to their arrival and their growth, and it means that new recruits can come in and help you. The Minutemen encourage rebuilding of settlements by establishing a network of Minutemen settlements, and they will ask you to go and help out people in settlements to grow and allow more people to feel protected and safe under the Minutemen. And the final major pro of the Minutemen is that they are the most morally good faction. They are the most morally good faction because they don't ask you to take things out of greed and for selfish reasons, such as the Brotherhood of Steel, who will try and ask you to steal crops for them, and the Institute asking you for your help reclaiming synths who want to be free. The Minutemen do nothing like that. They just want to help people. And despite their opposition to the Institute, they will get very angry with you if you do not issue the evacuation order, because issuing the order will free the Institute scientists, and it will also save the Gen 3 synths that are just staying in the Institute. They will all begin to roam the land, and they may even turn up at your settlements asking for you to, well, house them and keep them safe. Another major advantage of the Minutemen is they are the only faction that will use their influence to involve the people of the Commonwealth, and they do this by using radio freedom to broadcast not only morale boosting messages but also news about how their missions and their operations are going, and this helps people feel safer because they know exactly what's going on and what the Minutemen are doing. The Institute, the Brotherhood of Steel, and the Railroad keep all of their operations under the books and very secret, whereas the Minutemen do the exact opposite, and they want people to feel involved. They want people to feel like it's everyone's fight. They want everyone to feel like they are all helping the Commonwealth. Now for the cons. The first and one of the biggest cons of the Minutemen as a faction is that they focus far too much on the little details as opposed to the big picture, in the sense that they care too much about helping each individual settlement and each individual settler rather than trying to help the Commonwealth as a whole. The next drawback to the Minutemen as a faction is that you are essentially... No, you're not essentially, you are God to them. As soon as you meet them and rescue them from the Museum of Freedom and take them to Sanctuary, that's basically it. Preston will just recruit you and make you the general immediately. And that's because they are utterly useless without you. If you had not shown up to the Museum of Freedom, they would be dead. There are so few Minutemen left after the Quincy Massacre because they were nearly eradicated by the Gunners, and they continue to need your help even after you rescue them from the Museum of Freedom. They always need your help because you are a god to them. And this is because they lack the strength and firepower to achieve their goals without you. You are needed. You are necessary. Unlike the Brotherhood of Steel, who can do things without you. Unlike the Institute, who can do things without you. And now finally, the last con to the Minutemen, and I'm sure this is a big one for many people. This is also gameplay. It's Preston and his goddamn settlements. Another settlement needs my help. Another settlement needs my help. Another settlement needs my help. I'll mark it in your Pip-Boy. Wow. Thanks for saving that settlement, General. Really? I've not helped enough settlements, have I? You want to mark more settlements in my Pip-Boy. Every time I speak to you, it's just settlements. I don't want to help any more settlements just because a few ghouls want to munch on the peasants of the Commonwealth because they can't do anything for themselves. You know who else can't do anything for themselves? You, Preston. You are useless. If these settlements are so important and need so much help, why don't you prance over there and save them? Why does it have to be me? I'm the general. Do it yourself. There's so many Minutemen in the ending, and I'm still helping settlements. How many settlements do you have, Preston? Many people do not like this Radiant Quest mechanic. It is just a way for Bethesda to give people Radiant Quests over and over again, and yes, that keeps the game going, but it's so annoyingly delivered because every time you enter dialogue with Preston, it's just, hey General, another settlement needs my help. This makes me very angry, and this is probably one of the worst cons out of any faction, just because he is such a disease.
So the final faction that we are going to be discussing is the Railroad, and the Railroad is found during the Follow the Freedom Trail quest, or you can just stumble upon them yourself if you find them. Anyway, the Railroad is a pre-existing faction with its own history. They are a secret underground society of little people who are based around helping synths and ensuring their safety after they have been freed from the Institute. Now, the main pros of the Railroad are that they are very kind people who want to help those in need, especially synths whom they perceive to be enslaved, and obviously they are fighting against the institution of slavery in their eyes. They're the only faction to really oppose the Institute and disrupt their operations. No other main faction does this much of disrupting to the Institute. The Brotherhood of Steel, although they want to kill the Institute and they do attack synths on the street and whatnot, no other faction really gets the main thing that the Institute is known for, their Gen 3s, and takes them away from the Institute and sets them up in an entirely new life, unable to be reclaimed by the Institute. As with the Minutemen and the Brotherhood of Steel, the Railroad also want to defeat the Institute and eradicate them from the Commonwealth and stop them from enslaving synths and plaguing all of the societies in the Commonwealth and stagnating them with their awful replacing and terrible experiments. Now, the Railroad doesn't have that many pros because they are such a weak faction, which is one of the major cons. They are very weak, they have no real numbers, they don't have any technology, and when you compare them to the other factions, they are severely lacking in aspects like this. The Minutemen have a lot of numbers from you creating settlements for them. The Brotherhood of Steel have amazing technology, as does the Institute, but the Railroad doesn't have anything really in terms of that. They have a very small amount of people, and they don't have any advanced tech to speak of whatsoever. The Railroad are also incredibly stupid. They use rail signs and code names like 5-year-olds. Do you think somebody isn't going to figure out what some of these things mean? When you do tradecraft with Deacon and he introduces you to rail signs, you think, ooh, maybe these might be incredibly in-depth and fascinating and very, very, very unique, and people who aren't in the railroad would be incapable of deciphering what any of this means. And then you actually see them. They're an arrow with some lines around it. This is pathetic. What is this? Do you think someone who isn't in the railroad isn't going to comprehend what an arrow means, or what a plus sign means, or what an X means? These are very clear symbols that pretty much everyone knows, so their idea of secrecy is very moronic. You also can't join the railroad if you don't give yourself a code name, which again is very childlike. No one is going to know if you use a fake name. You could call yourself anything. It doesn't really matter. People of the Commonwealth can't look you up on Facebook and find out who you truly are. You know, this is an incredibly anonymous society. There is no way of mass tracking people or knowing who people are. So yeah, stuff like this bothers me because the railroad could be a very cool secretive faction, but their moronic rail signs and code names really bog them down and make them look rather dumb. Additionally, the railroad are also severely lacking in brain cells in that their amazing secret hideout can be found by following a red line along the floor. But not only that, not only do you follow this red line to their secret hideout, when you find the door to their secret hideout, what could be the secret password? Could it be something unguessable, something only a railroad agent would think of? Or could it be their name? Oh my god, this is so dumb. This is beyond dumb. Are you having a laugh? This is the most moronic thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Why would you have the password for your secret society be the name of it? What? And when you actually get into the railroad, Desdemona has the gall to look at you in the face and say, how could you possibly have guessed the secret password to the door? It's your name, woman. What do you mean? It's so dumb. Like, many of these factors really disdain my opinion for the railroad because they just look so unintelligent. You can't side with them. I can't view the railroad as a cool secret faction when they have so many moronic things about them. The railroad also only care about synths. They don't care about other groups in the Commonwealth who might be oppressed, like ghouls or super mutants or anything else. They only care about synths. And it might not be as bad as this, but this is how I imagine a lot of things would go about. If a regular human in the Commonwealth was in trouble, the railroad wouldn't care. But if a synth stubbed their toe, the railroad would jump on it like it was on fire. They'd come to their aid, they'd pay all their bills, they'd do everything for them. They only care about synths, and they're not caring about the majority of the people in the Commonwealth, humans who want to live peacefully. The railroad also has no plans whatsoever for the future. Every single other faction has plans for the future. If you side with the Institute will continue on their technological journey of making amazing technological things and whatnot. The Brotherhood of Steel will continue their military conquest across the entire United States, and the Minutemen will continue to help all the people of the Commonwealth making new settlements, giving them resources, and building civilization again. What on earth is the railroad going to do? Their primary enemy is the Institute, and their primary goal is helping synths. Once the Institute is destroyed, you can't make synths anymore. All the synths are saved or dead. So what is their future goal? What is the future of the railroad? They don't have some fancy technology, they don't have numbers, they don't have anything. They are just a faction who sits underground and helps synths, and once that goal has been accomplished, they have nothing to do. So the future of the Commonwealth is really just going to stagnate and have no effect. You are not picking a faction to lead the future of the Commonwealth, you're picking a faction to complete their goal, and that's it. The story of the railroad is now complete once the Institute is gone. Much like the Minutemen, the railroad also rely on you way too much. You are God to them, you have to do everything for them. They don't really do anything themselves. They are on the brink of extinction before you show up, and you know, if you don't help them, they would go extinct. That would be it. They've been wiped out twice already, both at Slocum Joe's and Augusta Safe House. They would be dead if you didn't show up. You do all of the missions for them, you do all of the heavy lifting for them. They just sort of toddle along for the ride, and yeah, they're not very good. So out of the four factions, there are clear advantages and disadvantages for each, but as a whole, for running the Commonwealth and leading it into a brighter future, there are clear winners and losers. Coming in last place is the Railroad. The Railroad, despite their moral righteousness, are utterly useless after the ending of the game. Their entire shtick is helping synths and defeating the Institute, but once that is done and no more synths are enslaved or even produced, what now? What is their grand plan for the future? They continue to hide away in their crumbling shack and do nothing to help anyone of the Commonwealth, despite their newfound status as the destroyers of both the Institute and the Brotherhood of Steel, to insanely advanced and powerful factions. The Railroad absolutely stink. At the third spot is the Institute. Despite the myriad of technological advancements they possess, their ending simply improves life for themselves and relegates the people of the Commonwealth to being subjugated by them in every way. Before, they were a shadow government pulling the strings in secret, and now they are openly awful to everyone in the Commonwealth in the name of science. The only reason this ranks higher than the Railroad is because at least they have a plan for the future and aren't completely pathetic.
The second spot is taken by the Brotherhood of Steel, who are clearly a good choice for running the Commonwealth in their want to rid the Institute menace and clean the streets of the Commonwealth to improve safety and quality of life. Their military prowess is far greater than anyone else's, as they have traded far more and they have much better weaponry, and thus their ability to protect the Commonwealth is the greatest. However, their bigoted views let them down significantly, as their unwillingness to accept simps, ghouls, or any non-human creature like supermutants makes them rather villainous, as does their intimidating actions to steal from settlements. For crops, to feed their soldiers, they will just take it from the citizens regardless of what they say. Regardless of what their goals are, their bigoted views do hold them back, and that cannot be overlooked, which is why the number one spot cannot be theirs, and it's going to go to the Minutemen. Obviously, number one is the Minutemen, because the Minutemen are the only faction who want to help everyone. They aim to rebuild civilization, and despite their technological limitations, they are very successful in establishing safe settlements and a growing militia of Minutemen to defend people and the streets. The Minutemen ensure the Commonwealth and all citizens have access to food, water, and safety by having you go to the settlements, annoyingly, yes, but at least they do it. Unlike everyone else, you are asked to go there, set up defences and turrets and posts, set up supply lines for them, which provides food and water to them, and it just makes quality of life a lot better for everyone. And then in comparison, every other faction has selfish tendencies. The Minutemen are the exact opposite of that, and they only desire to give rather than take.
So if you do agree with our ranking, let us know in the comment section down below. Or if you don't agree with our ranking, let us know in the comment section down below. If you have any disagreements about what you think, which factions are better, we do think the Brotherhood of Steel should rule the Commonwealth, do you think the Institute should, do you think the Railroad should? I hope you don't think that. Anywho, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one in a bit.